Hello, it's Sunday the 14th of October, and in this video I'm looking at the latest EuroMillions result, and I'm going to show you how these numbers could have been predicted. And I'm going to analyse the result. So nobody won the jackpot on Friday, so it's now gone up to 32 million. And this is the result from the last draw. Now here we have a spreadsheet that summarises the full draw history for all the machines and sets of balls. These are the numbers. These are the draws they occurred in last. This is how many times each number's occurred. This is the main number section, and this is the star number section. And you can only see one of the star numbers because they recently went up to 12, so 12's lagging behind. But if we only go back as far as when they went up to 12, then you can see all the star numbers on that. So the most recent draw was 11.54, and that's the result there at the bottom of this chart. So let's have a look at what the chart looked like before those numbers came out. So we'll look as far back as draw 11.53 and this is what the chart looked like before the last draw, and these are the numbers that came out. So I'm going to show you how these numbers could have been predicted. So let's ignore that for a second, and we'll just look at this analyzer section here. Now when we look at a chart for the full draw history, all machines, all sets of balls, then you can see that star number 5 is most overdue for its frequency at most overdue, and star number 8 is most frequent, and that's on the star number section, so we can ignore the main numbers for that. You can only see one of the star numbers at the moment, so let's get rid of all the draws before number 12 was added. So this is where we start picking as numbers. Now if we look at the odds, then you can see on this little table, these are your chances of getting these amounts of numbers. So it's easier to get no numbers and no star numbers. It's easier to get one main number than it is to get one star number, and it's easier to get one main number and one star number than it is to get both star numbers, because look at the odds. And so let's start by picking one star number, because that's the easiest way in. I'll just show you the main numbers as well. Now what we're looking at here is a picture of something chaotic, and the thing you have to remember about chaos is that it is self-similar. Now that means that if I look at a chart for any machine, any set of balls, any number over a certain number of draws, then whenever you see a chart like this, it's going to look roughly the same, and you usually get numbers going in a line from top left to bottom right. You get a dense region just here, slightly less dense region just here, and you get numbers floating around there. Now when we look at the full draw history and you look at the main numbers, so you've got a nicely rounded chart, everything's as it should be, nothing stands out much. But when we look at the star numbers, we don't get, it's not quite as neat. We've got one number that stands out, that's most overdue for its frequency and most overdue. So we're going to start by picking that number, star number 5. And from there, what we're going to do is we're going to look at numbers paired with star number 5. And when we do that, it looks like this. Now, if we look at the full draw history, okay, this summarises all the draws where star number 5 has come out. And what I'm going to do is just look at the star numbers. Now, when we look at this chart, let's start by looking at the recent history since the star numbers went up to 12. So you can see there's 2 that have yet to be drawn with star number 5. So let's go back just as far as when the star numbers went up to 11. So now there's more draws, numbers are more spread out, and we've got 2 that are most frequent, and that's when we look at a chart summarising all the draws from 382 up to 1153. Now if we look at the full draw history up until the last draw, you can see that star number 8 has been the most frequent. It wasn't necessarily the most frequent when there were 11 numbers, but it was still as frequent as number 10, the most frequent number. So on par with that one. And when we look at, since they went up to 12, it's just kind of in the middle. But when we're looking at the full draw history, star number 8 is most frequent. So let's pick star number 8 with number 5. So we've got 2 star numbers, now we need to look at the main numbers. Now when we're looking at the main numbers, there's 3 that stand out. We've got one that's most overdue for its frequency, one that's most frequent, and one that's most overdue. And the odd one out is the one that's most overdue because it's never once occurred with star numbers 5 and 8. So that's number 9. So let's pick number 9 for that reason. Now from number 9, let's see what we can get. Let's have a look at numbers paired with number 9. And when we do that, we don't need to look at the star numbers, but when we look at the main numbers, you can see that one of the two most overdue numbers is most overdue for its frequency as well, and that number is number 4. So it's the one that stands out the most on the chart for numbers paired with number 9. So let's pick number 4 for that reason. Now let's have a look at our chart for number 4. I noticed that star number 8 is most frequent with number 4. So this summarises all the draws where main number 4 has come out, and you can see that star number 8 is most frequent. Now if we just look at as far back as when the numbers went up to 12, turns out that star number 5 as well is most overdue for its frequency to occur with main number 4. So let's pick some more main numbers. Now let's just have a look at something. Now I'm going to come back to this later, but there's something I've missed. I'm just going to show you what I've missed. When we're looking at the star numbers, right, star number 5, we know it's going to be machine 1 in the next draw. So let's look at machine 1 and star number 5, and we see that star number 8 is most frequent. Maybe not the same in recent history, but most frequent. And if we look at star number 8, turns out star number 5 has always been most frequent with that. And now we're going to look at main number 4. And machine 1. And the interesting thing to note is the star numbers, because we've got number 5 most overdue, number 8 most frequent, number 5 most overdue for its frequency as well. And that's when we're looking at the full draw history, machine 1 and main number 4. Now what we're going to look at next is what we get if we look at main number 9 and star number 5 together, because when we do that, it turns out that if we look at machine 1 as well, the number that's most frequent with main number 9 and star number 5 is 43. So let's pick 43 for that reason. Now next we're going to look at main numbers 4 and 9 together. Full draw history, all machines and sets of balls. Star number 8 is most frequent on that chart. And it's not, those two numbers have not occurred together once since the star numbers went up to 12. So it'd be the first time they've occurred together if they do come out, when they come out in the last draw. So, moving on. Now we're going to look at main number 43 and star number 5, and see what number is most frequent when we look at these two numbers together. Main number 43, star number 5, all machines, all sets of balls, full draw history. Number 12 stands out as being most frequent with those two numbers. So let's pick number 12 for that reason. And now that we've picked number 12, what shall we do next? Well, let's have a look at a chart for number 12. And when we do that, it turns out that number 31 is most overdue to occur with main number 12. And that's when we're looking at all machines and sets of balls, full draw history. So let's pick 31 for that reason. So now we've got 5 main numbers and 2 star numbers that we've predicted based on the ways in which they are most outstanding, with star numbers 5 and 8, main number 4, main number 9, 43, that led to 12, and now that leads to 31. So it's as if one number leads to the next. And just to confirm that we've got the right numbers, let's have a look at how they point back to each other as well. So when we look at a chart for number 31, and straight away you can see that main number 12 is not just most overdue, but it's also most overdue for its frequency with main number 31. So those two very strong together, just like those two were, and so that kind of confirms that 31 and 12 go together very well. Now when we look at machine 1 and main number 31 together, then it turns out that number 4 is most overdue for its frequency to occur with main number 31 and machine 1. So that's good because we're picking number 4, so 31 points back to number 4 as well. So it's strong with 12, strong with 4, 4 and 9 strong together, and 9 and star number 5 point to number 43, and so on and so on. 43 and 5 point to 12, 12 points to 31, 31 points back to 12 and 4. So what else does 31 point to? Well, star number 8, when we're looking at the set of balls that's going to be used, because we know that it's going to be set of balls 5. So when we're looking at number 31, set of balls 5, the only one that stands out is star number 8 because it's most overdue for its frequency. And that's the same in recent history So full history, because set of balls 5's only been used recent, so that makes no difference. And when we look at main number 4 as well, we get a similar thing with star number 5. So set of balls 5, main number 4 points back to star number 5. Now you can imagine if I'd looked at all this in the run up to the draw, if I'd chosen this particular path, if I'd looked at these numbers in these ways, seen the ways in which they stand out together, the ways in which these numbers point to each other, then they could have been predicted. Could have predicted all 5 main numbers and both star numbers. So you see, those are all the ways that these numbers stood out together before the last draw. So in conclusion, that's what it would have took to predict them. Now, this little sheet that I'm looking at here, this shows which draws we're looking at, which machines we're looking at, which set of balls we're looking at. And this is what we find on the analyzer section. So here, for example, when we look at this cell, see it's a grid. So what we're looking at is the full draw history, all machines, all sets of balls, and this is what we get. We get star 5 overdue, star 5 most overdue for its frequency, and star 8 most frequent. And so this analyzer section is summarised in this cell. And then if we switch to recent history, we get that. When we look at the machine, the set of balls, so for instance, machine 1, star number 5, full draw history, we have a reason to pick star number 8, most frequent. So to produce this analyzer section just here, see these numbers here come from this sheet. It's basically these numbers on there, and these come from right over here. So we've got these different coloured sections. The blue section analyses all the numbers to work out which is most overdue. Then the green looks at the most frequent, purple most overdue for its frequency, that's for the main numbers, and then the smaller ones, that's for the star numbers. So each line is basically an analyzer section for the star numbers and the main numbers, and then all this section here is where the numbers are counted in order to work out how many times they've occurred and what draw they occurred in last, and that's counted upwards along these columns, different column for each number. That gets to the top. The top numbers go across to the analyzer section, and then that gets summarised just here on this section. So we've got a huge spreadsheet. We've got all this, all these numbers, all this draw history, all these columns, all that analysis, and it's all condensed down into this tiny little section here that then gets displayed on the chart. So this entire sheet, which has got all these cells covering the full draw history, so there's 1154 rows, and then we've got all these columns for every single row, so it's a huge sheet. And basically, to fill just one cell on this grid, we need the entire sheet. So rather than produce a different sheet for each cell, I've basically manipulated the criteria on this chart to get a readout for each cell. So I've looked at a chart to get that, another one to get that, and that, and that, and so on. So you can see how many times I've altered the criteria on the chart to get the analysis. So you can see I've done it 8 times, and then I've done it once for every individual number. You notice there's 7. So by the time I got to here, I got all 7 numbers. These are all the pairs. Now there's 21 pairs, as you would expect, because you can make 21 pairs from the 7 numbers, because you take the 7, you multiply it by the 6, and you divide that by 2, because the order doesn't matter for each pair. So that's how many pairs there are, that's how many individual numbers there are. And so I've looked at a chart for each individual number with the machine, the set of balls, and the draw history. That's 3 different factors. 2 to the power of 3 equals 8. So we've got 8 rows. 8 rows plus, well, we've got 8 rows multiplied by 21 columns for the pairs, 7 columns for the individual numbers. That's 28 columns plus 1, where we're not looking at any individual number or pair, where we're looking at all numbers individually. So that's basically 29 columns multiplied by 8 rows equals 232 different charts that I've looked at, analysed, put the analysis readout into one of these cells, and basically produced this grid, this analysis grid, that basically displays the structure of the winning combination. So these are the ways that the numbers relate to each other, and the ways in which they relate to pairs, each pair. So we got as far as 2 individual star numbers, then we had to look at a pair to get the next individual number. And then we looked at individual numbers and we didn't get the next number until we looked at another pair. And I noticed that the individual numbers go about halfway across. And then once we got to here, we got all the individual numbers. And these pairs, that's just for confirmation, to make sure that they're good with the other numbers. So if you imagine having enough of these sheets to instantly produce an analysis grid like this for any combination, to instantly output all this would require 232 copies of this sheet, which is already a huge sheet. So I'd need 232 times this vast sheet. And if I did that, excuse me, if I did that, then it would instantly produce this analysis grid for any combination. So whether or not I'm going to do that, I don't know. Whether or not it'd even work, I don't know. I don't know if there's enough memory to have 232 copies of this sheet. But it's something to consider trying, because then whatever numbers I put in here, it would analyse them and show basically the analysis on a grid like that, showing how the numbers could have been predicted. So that's a possible project to consider. Anyway, now that these numbers have come out, if you imagine that I'd predicted these numbers and won, that would have been awesome. But let's see if I can produce something similar, a similar structure, and somehow predict what's going to happen in the next draw. So when we look at this chart, we see that main number 19 is the one that's most overdue for its frequency. And if you look at the star numbers, see, there's nothing quite as outstanding on this chart now that that number 5's dropped down from up there, because before it looked like that, and now that those numbers come out, that's dropped down and it now looks like that. So there's number 19. Let's suppose that I pick number 19, in which case we get a chart that summarises all the draws where number 19 has been drawn. I notice that star number 3 is most frequent with 19, and that's the same in recent history. And when we look at the star numbers, again, star number 3 is most frequent. So with 19, I'm going to pick star number 3. So now, let's look at star number 3. And also number 19 together. And if we look at the full draw history, notice how number 38 is most overdue for its frequency with 19 and star number 3. Well, that's the same for 19 on its own. So let's pick number 38. And notice where 47 is. And if you look, the most overdue number is 22. And then we've got 10, one of the most frequent. So let's see what star number 3 points to on the main number section. And if we look at 38 as well. So now we've got star number 5 most overdue for its frequency with 38 and 3. So I could pick star number 5 for that reason. So it works both ways. 38, 3 and 19. 19 is most overdue for its frequency with those. Star number 3 and machine 1. Clearly points to number 50. Let's see what set of balls 5 says. Look where number 10 is again. Now, oh yeah, that's it. Let's look at these two star numbers together, 3 and 5. And we'll look at all sets of balls as well as all machines. And again, we've got 22 most overdue. If you remember, 22 was most overdue with 19 as well. So we'll pick that. And if you look, number 10 standing out again with these numbers. It's most frequent. So we'll pick number 10. So good with these two star numbers, good with number 19. Let's see what we get with number 22. We can see star number 5 most frequent. We know it's going to be machine 1. Again, star number 5 most frequent. And look what's most overdue, 19. And look at the most overdue star number, number 3. Now let's look at 38 with machine 1. When we do that, we get this chart. See 19's on the edge. Number 3 is on the edge. So we've got a lot of options for the last main number. Now, I could pick 47 because it's second most overdue on this chart for machine 1 and main number 19, and it's the same when we look at 19. So let's just have a look at a chart for number 47 and see where all the other numbers are on this chart. So there's 19, and let's look at machine 1. So we've got star 5 most overdue for its frequency. And if we look at recent history, we get that. Now let's look at set of balls 5. So maybe not 47, I don't know. I don't know about that one. Now, what I'm going to do is look at the full draw history and produce a chart for each of these numbers. See if any number stands out as being the best for all of them. So number 10 we've got these. Number 19 we've got these numbers. For 22 we've got these. And then for 38 we've got these numbers. So maybe to go with 38 we could have number 50. For 2 reasons. So star number 3, and that's star number 5. I know it's 50s on the edge of that. And then all the numbers individually. See, 50 is most frequent, so maybe, I don't know. Let's look at machine 1. Well, machine 1's pointing to 18. Still 50 most frequent. And again 19 most overdue for its no, actually no, 18's most overdue for its frequency with machine 1. So let's have a look at set balls 5. Most overdue for its frequency is number 10. 3 most frequent. So you can see why these numbers are good together. But I just don't know which number to have with them. So I'll leave that for you to decide. Now that's going to summarise this video. Conclude this video, should I say. So you can see from what I've shown you, you can see how the numbers that came out in the last draw were predictable. So if we'd followed this little path, it would have led to all the individual numbers, main numbers and star numbers. And you can also see how these numbers that I've predicted, they sort of relate to each other in ways that are similar to the ways in which these numbers related to each other in the last draw. So what I'm doing is basically seeing how the winning numbers lead to each other, how they are predictable when I analyse the result, and then when I make a prediction I try and follow a similar type of path as what I would have had to follow to predict the numbers. So a similar path leads to these numbers. So that's the path that led to those winning numbers, and then I followed a similar path to get to these numbers. So hopefully these are the numbers that are going to come out. So that concludes this video then. Sorry that it's so long, but I put a lot of work into it, and hopefully it will help you to win that huge jackpot of 30 odd million. So good luck with that. Be sure to subscribe so that you get the next video, so that you get a notification and then you won't miss it. I upload a video between draws, analysing the most recent draw and then predicting numbers for the next one. So look out for that, and bye for now.